Hey, this is Pete, North Las Vegas. Back out here again with the FAL. I discovered that the barrel wasn't quite timed right, so this is kind of a follow-up video to one I did a couple of days ago. So I pulled this apart, retimed the barrel, I moved it, I had to back it off, loosen it up about 1 degree. And the problem I was having was at 50 yards, it was shooting about 2 to 3 inches to the right. So it was off quite a bit. What I did originally to try to solve the problem was I put this DS Arms rear sight on, and you get adjustment in 2 places with this sight. You get the windage adjustment on the drifting, the dovetail, and then DS Arms also gives you a thumb wheel adjustment for windage up here. So between the 2 of them, you get twice as much adjustment. But to me, it was kind of a band-aid fix, and every time I looked down the back of the rifle, the sight would be off. Now last night I drifted this over quite a bit and got it more towards the middle, but it was sticking out quite a bit, and it didn't look right. So anyway, like I said, I did a video the other day on retiming this barrel, so we're back out here to test it out and see how well I did, if I went too far or didn't go far enough. And my shooting bench that I made, and get the plans off of YouTube. And I got to take care of something before we get started this morning. Uh-oh. Man, it looks good from here. Looks real good. Okay, so that's only 10 yards, but rifle's shooting way straighter, way straighter. I just need to make some minor tweaks, and we'll get this target out to 50 yards. And I think my retiming of the barrel, I think I got it really close. Okay, so now that I'm satisfied that this thing is shooting straight and I got the windage dialed in pretty close, I'm going to pull the DS Arms sight off, and I'm going to put the original factory ramp style back on, and just so it has the correct look. And there's nothing wrong with this DS Arms sight. It did kind of solve my problem, but I'm going to put the original back on. There's 2 types of rear sights. This one has a spring underneath it, and this has a serrated or a ratcheting screw head that butts up against the spring, so you can get clicks. You can feel, you get a tactile feel for what's going on when you make a windage adjustment. On the original FAL does not have a spring. It's flat bottomed and uses a shorter screw that does not have the serrations on the bottom of the screw head. So anyway, I'm going to get this swapped out real quick, and we'll finish getting this thing sighted in, and I'm almost ready to declare this thing a straight shooter now. Okay, so that's DS Arms. You can see where it uses the spring on the bottom, and these screws are slightly longer than the factory FN screws. You can see that the factory OEM FAL, this particular style of sight, does not use a spring. These screws are also, I don't know if the camera's picking it up, but there's a little slot on the end of the screw. And I think what they do is, because there's no spring, there's no ratcheting serrations on the back of the screw head, I think that they splay those open a little bit. So if they do come loose, they're not just going to fall out. So anyway, we're going to put this back on and finish sighting this rifle in. Anyway, so far pretty happy. All right, let's go see what we did. Looks pretty good from here. Okay, so two of them went here, and I made a little bit of a correction with the iron sights. And this is just the way I was looking through them. I wasn't quite lined up. And then I put two right here. So I think when we get this out to 50 yards, I should be pretty darn close. Anyway, let's get this thing out to 50. Okay, so I normally try not to shoot without safety glasses on, but I've got this target out at 50 yards. The target black dot is about 1 inch. So I'm kind of pushing my eyes and these iron sights at 50 yards. So we'll see what we can do. So I'm holding the front sight right under the black dot because the front sight covers it up. So when I go down to check the target, if I'm anywhere close, I'll put up a bigger target that I can see a little better. But I'll fire one more shot and see where we're at. Safety on. All right, let's go check it out. Okay, so actually that's not bad for elevation at 50 yards with a 7.62 NATO. The rifle was shooting almost 2 inches to the right, and I'm probably, I don't know, ½ inch, 3/4 to the left. However, that's good, because right now my rear sight is slightly drifted to the left. So I'm going to make one final adjustment, and after that I will declare this rifle a straight shooter. Okay, so that was my last 3 shots after I made my last windage adjustment. So I'm really happy that the windage is now straightened out. And after putting the factory OEM rear sight back on, I am like perfectly centered now. I mean, it's flush on this side and it is absolutely flush on this side. So this rifle, windage wise, is dialed in, and I'm very happy. It's been kind of a learning experience for me, just figuring out how much that barrel needs to be retimed or indexed versus how much of a point of aim, point of impact effect that it had. So now that I know that, I'm happy with the rifle now, and it's a straight shooter. And one last thing on the target, these squares are almost 2 inches. They're 1.9 inches. So if you go center to center, You're looking at about 1 inch. And like I said, I could barely see this dot at 50 yards. The front sight would cover it up. So I'm going to say that the rifle probably shoots around 2.5 MOA at 100 yards, somewhere between 3 and 2 MOA. So for an FM FAL, that's a very straight shooting rifle. Oh, one other thing. In the first video clip, when I showed you this, and I said, uh-oh. Well, I'm not exactly what you would call a prepper, but I had more long before the coronavirus hit. Later, Pete in North Las Vegas. Anyway, here's a little bit of a bonus clip. I don't know how well the camera's picking it up, but that's Mount Charleston. And I think it's a little above 12,000 feet at the summit. The clouds are covering that up. Also a ski resort up there, Lee Canyon Ski Resort. And what a lot of people don't know is this is like 15 minutes from Las Vegas. And everybody always thinks of Las Vegas as being hot in the desert. A lot of wild horses and a lot of burros out here.